In the last Brain Unlocked video, we discussed how you could use mirror neurons to create extraordinary performance in others. In this video, I want to discuss how you can use mirror neurons to handle difficult relationships. Mirror neurons, as discussed in the previous video, can be defined as producing automatic mimicry. Brain researchers discovered that when one person sees another person expressing an emotion, the same areas of the brain associated with that emotion are activated in the observer, making emotions transmittable. Let's now look at how you can use mirror neurons to transform difficult relationships into cooperative and supportive ones. As per my usual approach to these videos, I will start by giving you a personal case example. I was working as a learning and development manager in a large corporation and found myself confronted by an extremely difficult situation with a new manager. Basically, the new manager had taken an instant dislike to me and announced upon arrival that I was no longer to work with senior managers in the company, and that she would now be handling all those relationships. She basically said to me, "I don't care what you do as long as you stay out of my way." I thought, not good. I did consider leaving, but decided to follow my instincts and stick around. After all, I had been teaching people for years how to handle difficult relationships. How difficult could this be? Well, as it turns out, extremely. Every time I had a one-on-one meeting with this manager, which just happened to be weekly, it was a disaster. I tried so many tried and tested techniques, but to no avail. On one occasion, I decided to use the technique of posing a question so that I could try and get underneath what the real problem was. So I asked, "Well, how do you think I'm performing in my role?" She quickly came back with, "I wouldn't know, you're never here." Okay, I thought, where do I go with that one? It was true, I didn't spend much time in the office, but I was only doing what she suggested, and I'd made myself scarce by working off-site most of the time. Finally, the manager went on maternity leave. Great, I thought, 6 months off from putting up with her hostility. She brought in a replacement manager who seemed affable enough at the time, or so I thought. Performance appraisal time arrived, and I thought it was a blessing that my manager was on maternity leave. The way the appraisal system worked in this particular organisation was that your performance was assessed by your internal client base. The day before my appraisal was due, one of my clients called me and said, "Jewel, I thought I should tell you that the manager who is conducting your performance review contacted me today and was pointedly asking me questions that were trying to discredit your work." The client went on to say, "I had to repeat several times to him that I was extremely happy with all your services that you provided and that I had no complaints. He didn't want to accept the fact that you were doing a good job and kept digging to try and find fault with your work." The client ended the conversation by saying, "I just thought I should let you know." I thought, what the hell is going on here? When performance appraisal time arrived the next day, I decided to confront the manager with the feedback that I had received. He didn't deny it, but instead just looked at me and said, "You need to learn to manage up." Okay, I thought, she couldn't get rid of me, and now she's trying to get you to do it. Eventually, my manager arrived back from maternity leave. Unfortunately, motherhood did nothing to soften her attitude towards me, and the games continued. One day after a particularly bad incident occurred, I said to myself, "Jewel, why don't you just practice what you preach?" So I decided to hold a vision of getting on with this woman. At first I found it difficult because a loud voice in my head said, "No way, this woman is a nightmare." I wasn't quite so polite with my language. Why would I want to get on with her? She doesn't deserve forgiving, not with everything that she has put me through. But thank goodness common sense won out. I had been holding this vision for about a week when performance appraisal time came around again. As soon as I entered the room and sat down, the first words out of my manager's mouth were, "Jewel, I've had you figured wrong all this time." Now, I do admit that even I was shocked. I knew the technique worked, but wow, I thought to myself, this is even more powerful than I thought. 2 years of trying every trick in the book and then 1 week of holding a vision and the problem is solved. And I do mean solved. From that point on, she was fully supportive and cooperative. So much so, when she left the company before I did, I asked her to be a referee for a very high-profile position with another company. She gave me a glowing report and I secured the position. Now, one of the interesting things about this story is, had I left when she first came on board, I would not be doing the work I do today. When she originally told me to stay out of her way, I decided to do something I hadn't had the opportunity to do before, and that was to focus exclusively on training people to achieve extraordinary results. I applied to do a 3-week very expensive external training program, which she instantly approved. It was during that program that the trainer spoke about the power of seeing what you want in your mind's eye. To me, this translated into seeing things as I wanted them to be and not how they actually appeared. This is how I developed the concept of holding a vision. I have never ceased to be amazed how we can turn adversity into opportunities if we can remove our emotions and our ego from the equation. I would like to add this situation was not a one-off event. I have used this technique in many other difficult situations. I never really understood why I seem to attract challenging relationship situations in the work environment. I now realise that I'm one of those people who is highly attuned to other people's thoughts. And I now know that I was continually buying into other people's mirror neurons and inflaming the situation with either aggressive or avoidance behaviours. It wasn't until I developed the habit of holding a vision of how I wanted the relationship to be that I solved this dilemma. I only wish that I would have discovered it sooner, as not only would it have saved me a lot of grief, I wouldn't have missed so many opportunities. Before concluding this video, let's take a look at how the technique works. Firstly, when confronted by a difficult relationship, the first thing you do is take your emotions and ego out of the situation. Secondly, you can do this by mentally handing over all emotional angst to a magic genie who will dispose of them for you. Thirdly, hold a vision in your mind of how you would like the situation to be. Lastly, and most importantly, do not let go of your vision until the relationship manifests the way that you want it to. It is my sincere wish, if you're watching this video, that you transform your difficult relationships into life-changing opportunities.